Alright, so over the years, or a year, I should probably say, it's probably been a year, I've been asked quite a few times how to make the holographic proxies that you probably see posted on Burbank City every once in a while. Like usually it's the Sycamore. Um, this is actually one of my earlier ones, so it's not the best. Uh, and it's actually super simple. Basically, you take a existing holofoil card and you rub it with a bunch of acetone just to get all of the ink off. That'll leave you with a blank holofoil card, and so you'll still have the Pokemon logo and stuff on the back. Um, you then print off the image you want on some transparency film. Uh, it's like $1 a sheet. It's pretty inexpensive, but you usually have to buy it in bulk. Um, so I have like 50 sheets here, which is way more than I ever needed. You can fit about, I would say, 8 cards on a sheet. Um, and what you do when you're printing this, I'm not going to go over the printing steps because I don't have access to a laser printer. You can use either inkjet or laser. Be sure to get the transparency film for your printer type. The laser printer is definitely going to come out in a higher quality, so I'll use that. When you do print it out, reverse the image itself, like mirror it. So when you print it out, it comes out backwards. So the ink is actually printed on this side. So when you actually go to glue it onto the card, the ink gets locked inside. I'm going to cut now to removing the holofoil with the acetone, painting the back of the card with some white acrylic to get that opaque look, and then lastly slapping it on some spray adhesive to stick it on the card itself. So we'll get to that. I don't have any sort of tripod, so I'll do the best I can here. What I've got is just straight up acetone. You can get this super cheap at like Walmart. And I've got just a rag. This is actually an old t-shirt of mine. But whatever you use, make sure it's something you don't care about because you're going to get a crap ton of ink all over it. I would also say the surface you do it on, you might want to like tack it down with some newspaper or something as the ink will rub onto it. This is a table we don't care about, so it's whatever. And what you're going to do is get a decent amount of acetone on the rag. I usually like to put my finger in it like that. And you're basically going to just rub off the ink on the card itself until you get the holofoil finish on the bottom. So actually, as you see, it doesn't take very long. You will want to be careful for the edges. The acetone will eat onto the back side of the card. So just get some more if it starts to not do so well. There are some sets of cards where if you rub off the ink, you'll be left with white. Like a normal card, if you were to rub off the ink of a normal card, you'll just be left with a white background. Just try a different set. I know Legendary Treasures, I think, and Call of Legends do that for whatever reason. And some other sets in the plasma block as well. So I'll get this holofoil done and I'll jump back to the actual painting of the transparency itself. And here is the finished holofoil blank. As you see, Pokemon card on the back. Still holofoil. Can't really see it here, and you won't be able to really see it in the final version, but you can see my fingernails are overgrown, so don't scratch the card. You can also see on the back a little bit, or maybe not. Basically, what you want to do is be careful for the acetone to not seep on the bottom when you're working the edges out. Usually I will wipe the edges out this way, away from the card, and lift as I do that, so I'm not wiping back onto the sides of the cards because you'll actually damage the edges that way. Step is pretty much up to you of whether you want to pursue or not. When you're working with humans, it's generally a good idea to do. And what we're going to do is basically take some white matte acrylic and paint on the back side of the card everywhere we don't want the holofoil to show through. If we were just to tack it on by itself, you can see Professor Sycamore is very shiny and ghost-like. It's more noticeable with some of the other holofoil prints. You get that with a lot of the lighter cards. With some of the darker cards like this Chamonix X, it's not as bad or noticeable, but it really makes the proxy effect more apparent. So what I do is I just flip it onto the other side. We pop open. Sorry about this. As I said, I don't have anything for actually doing this the right way. And I'm not an artist by any means, so if this is the wrong way to use acrylic, then I guess be sure to let me know. But what I do is I just go through and just paint on exactly where I don't want the holofoil to shine through. So it might take a couple of layers depending on how thick your paint is. Usually it takes me 2 layers. And while I'm doing this, it's also good to note that with the acrylic, if you go over a few spots, you can just chip it away pretty easily. At least with the laser printed transparencies. I'm not sure if that's true for the inkjet printed ones. This is also only one of many ways to make these proxies. They're a lot larger in the Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh communities. They're called orcas for like original cards. Not too many people make Pokemon ones, sadly. So, and the methods used to actually create these is, I hesitate to say well guarded, but it took me quite a few hours of searching to figure out how to actually get this sort of acrylic trick to work. So when I'm done with this, I'll go ahead and pop it back. Right, I got impatient and we're just going to go for it. So to fix the card to the transparency, I use Loctite spray adhesive. This is what they had in stock, so I'm not sure if there's any other options that are better. I do know with this brand, one of the problems that I have with it is that it actually has a sort of speckling effect, which can be kind of cool, but if you're not going for that look, then it's not the greatest. So basically with this, you kind of just shake it up. I'm going to need 2 hands for this, so I'm going to put the phone down while I do it. But I put the spray adhesive onto the blank card, and then I line it up with the proxy itself when I put it on, like that. And then I just sort of let it sit there for a couple minutes. The spray adhesive dries pretty quickly. So let's see if I can get that shown. Right, so the adhesive is on. I want to make sure the card is you can sort of see that speckling effect I was sort of talking about a little earlier. So what we do is just make sure the card is lined up. Put it onto the top. Make sure the edges are... this isn't the best one, but it's a quick tutorial to get an idea of how it works. And there we go. There is a fresh proxy Shaman EX um, with the holofoil on the back. As I move it around, you can kind of see how the opaqueness doesn't shine through the Shaman, or how the holofoil doesn't shine through the Shaman, or the two girls. Uh, if you were to look, you can see where I missed a few spots, but it's whatever. They're used to be proxies. So what I do next is I actually just cut the card out. I usually flip it over and with scissors just sort of cut around the edges, and then we'll put it in a perfect fit sleeve right after that. And that's it. Proxy Shaman EX. I got it in the perfect sleeve and everything. Sometimes the edges will curl up, which is really annoying. That can probably be fixed by using just better spray glue or a better piece of transparency film. Um, One thing to note is that the cards are noticeably thicker, um, and they don't bend as easily because of the thickness of the transparency sheet. So if you're using these to play test pretty intensely, you might want to consider that. I usually use them for just local league games when I don't want to actually play with my super expensive cards, and I mean they look cool too. So that is all. Just let me know if you have any questions. I'll be surely glad to answer them. As I said before, this is just how I do it. There are many, 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 many different ways to actually create these proxies, and I'm definitely interested in learning better techniques. That's all.